In the far north of Europe, along the jagged coastlines of Scandinavia, a civilization was taking shape. Its people were farmers and fishermen, poets and craftsmen, but above all, they were builders of ships. Through the 8th century, Norse society developed an extraordinary mastery of the sea. Their longships, shallow enough to beach on open coastlines, fast enough to outrun any vessel of their time, were among the most advanced maritime technology the medieval world had ever seen. But the sea alone did not make them dangerous. It was what drove them onto it. Overpopulation pressed against the limits of thin northern soil. Competition among chieftains intensified as younger sons found no land to inherit and no future at home. The pressure had been building for generations. The question was not whether it would break outward, but where. On the 8th of June, 793 AD, that pressure found its outlet. Norse ships appeared without warning off the coast of Northumbria, on the tidal island known as Lindisfarne. The monastery there was among the most venerated in the Christian world, a center of learning, manuscript making, and faith, largely undefended and entirely unprepared. What followed was swift and devastating. Monks were killed, taken captive, or driven into the sea. Treasures accumulated over generations were carried away. The attack sent a shock wave through Christian Europe. Scholars wrote of it as a portent, a punishment from God. For the monks of Lindisfarne, it was simply catastrophe. For history, it was an opening. The Viking Age had begun. Lindisfarne was not an isolated incident. It was the first recorded blow of a campaign that would spread across decades. Through the late 8th and early 9th centuries, Norse raiders returned year after year, probing deeper, striking faster, and learning which targets yielded the greatest rewards. Monasteries along the Irish coast were hit repeatedly. Trading settlements on the Frankish shore were burned and plundered. Communities that had never imagined attack from the sea found they had no answer to it. The Norse had identified a fundamental weakness in European civilization. Its wealth was concentrated, its coasts were open, and its defenders could not predict where the next blow would fall. This was not yet conquest. It was reconnaissance, brutal, profitable, and methodical. While Norwegian and Danish Norse pushed west toward the British Isles and the Frankish coast, their Swedish counterparts looked east. From the Baltic, they followed great river systems deep into the interior of what is now Russia and Ukraine. The Dnieper, the Volga, the Neva. They were known to the peoples they encountered as Varangians, and they came not only to raid, but to trade. By the 830s and 840s, Varangian groups had established fortified trading posts and proto-states at key river junctions, most significantly at Novgorod and along the route toward Kiev. These river roads connected the Baltic Sea to the Byzantine Empire in the south and to the wealthy cities of the Islamic Abbasid Caliphate beyond. For the first time, the Norse world stretched from the North Atlantic to the edges of Asia. Around 862 AD, according to the traditional account preserved in the primary chronicle, a Varangian chieftain named Rurik was invited, or compelled, to take control of Novgorod and bring order to the feuding peoples of the region. Whether the invitation was genuine or the product of conquest softened by later legend, the result was real. Rurik established a dynasty that would rule the region for over 7 centuries. Norse and Slavic cultures began the slow process of merging. The language, the customs, the religion would all gradually shift, but the political structure, a ruling elite of Norse origin governing a Slavic population, would shape the region's identity for generations. What had begun as a trade route was becoming a state. In the west, the Norse were growing bolder. In 845 AD, a large Danish fleet sailed up the Seine River and laid siege to Paris itself. The city held, but the surrounding region was devastated. The Frankish king Charles the Bald faced a choice no sovereign wished to make: fight an enemy his armies could not pin down, or pay them to leave. He paid 7,000 pounds of silver. A danageld was handed over in exchange for the Norse withdrawal. It worked in the short term, but the precedent was catastrophic. Word spread that the Frankish Empire, one of the most powerful states in Europe, would pay to be left in peace. The Norse had discovered something more reliable than plunder: tribute. They would return. Raiding required targets, but the Norse were never only raiders. Beginning around 860 and accelerating through the 870s, groups of Norse settlers, many from Norway, began colonizing the Faroe Islands and then Iceland. They were not following armies, they were following land. Iceland, volcanically young and largely uninhabited, offered something Scandinavia could not: space. Within decades, it supported a substantial Norse population, and by around 930 AD, those settlers had done something remarkable. They created the Althing, an open-air assembly where free men gathered annually to settle disputes, pass laws, and govern themselves without a king. It was not democracy as later ages would define it, but it was something genuinely unusual for its time: collective self-governance on a functioning scale. By the mid-9th century, England had grown accustomed to raids. Communities near the coast lived with seasonal fear. But in 1865 AD, something different arrived: a force so large that contemporaries called it the Great Heathen Army, a coalition of Danish warriors under a unified command, landed in East Anglia. Its leaders, reportedly the sons of the legendary chieftain Ragnar Lothbrok, had not come to raid and withdraw. They had come to conquer. England at the time was divided into 4 kingdoms: Northumbria, East Anglia, Mercia, and Wessex, each capable of defending itself alone, but deeply reluctant to defend one another. The army that had just landed understood this completely. What followed was systematic, patient, and ruthless. The great heathen army moved with a discipline that surprised its opponents. In 866 AD, it captured York, the capital of Northumbria, exploiting a civil war between rival kings who were too distracted to mount a coherent defense. Northumbria fell. East Anglia followed. Its king, Edmund, refused to renounce his faith and was executed, martyred in the eyes of his people. Mercia was next, slowly strangled over several years. By 871 AD, the army had turned south toward Wessex, the last surviving Anglo-Saxon kingdom. England as it had existed was dissolving. The Norse were not merely raiding a civilization, they were replacing it. Wessex fought back. Year after year, the young King Alfred led his men against the Danish forces, sometimes winning, more often simply surviving. But in the winter of 877 to 878 AD, the Danes launched a surprise attack over the Christmas period, scattering Alfred's forces and overrunning his strongholds. Alfred fled with a small band of followers into the marshes of Somerset, the wetlands around the Isle of Athelney. He had no kingdom left. He was a fugitive king, hiding in fens, dependent on the hospitality of peasants who may not even have recognized him. It was the lowest point of Anglo-Saxon resistance. Most men in his position would have accepted terms, gone into exile, or simply given up. Alfred did none of these things. In the spring of 1878 AD, Alfred emerged from the marshes. He sent word across Wessex, and the fjord, the Anglo-Saxon militia, answered. At the Battle of Edington, his forces met the Danish army under King Guthrum and defeated them decisively. The Norse had not met a collapse, but a counterattack they had not prepared for. Guthrum and his remaining men were besieged in their fortified camp until they surrendered. What followed was as significant as the battle itself. Alfred required Guthrum to be baptized as a Christian, with Alfred himself standing as godfather. The Treaty of Wedmore that followed defined a boundary, the Danelaw, separating Norse-controlled territory in the north and east from Alfred's Wessex in the south and west. England had been divided, but it had not been lost. Alfred did not stop at survival. Through the 80s and into the 890s, he rebuilt Wessex from the ground up. Across the kingdom, he constructed a network of fortified towns, burhs, positioned so that no settlement was more than a day's march from a defensible stronghold. He reorganized the fjord into a rotating system that kept part of the army always in the field. He commissioned warships larger than Norse longships to fight them at sea before they could land. And he promoted literacy, translating key Latin texts into Old English so that knowledge was not confined to the clergy. Alfred understood something his predecessors had not, that resisting the Norse required not just soldiers, but institutions. He was building not just a kingdom, but the foundation of a nation. Meanwhile, in the Frankish world, the Norse problem had not been solved. It had been institutionalized. Through the late 9th century, a Norse chieftain named Rollo had become the dominant military force in the same valley, raiding repeatedly and proving impossible to dislodge. Faced with this reality, the Frankish king Charles the Simple made a calculation. In 911 AD, at St. Clair-sur-Epte, he offered Rollo something extraordinary: recognition. Rollo would receive a large territory in the northwest as a formal fief. In exchange, he would defend it from other Norse raiders and swear fealty to the Frankish crown. It was, on its surface, a humiliation for the Franks. In practice, it was also genius. The Norse energy that had threatened the empire was now committed to protecting part of it. The land Rollo received would become known as Normandy. What happened in Normandy over the following decades was one of the most rapid cultural transformations in medieval history. Rollo and his followers converted to Christianity, adopted the Frankish language, and absorbed the feudal customs of the society around them. Within 2 generations, the Norse language had essentially vanished from Normandy. The descendants of Viking raiders were speaking French, building Romanesque churches, and thinking of themselves as Norman, a word that still carried the echo of Norsemen, but meant something entirely different. They retained the Norse capacity for organized military aggression. They combined it with Frankish administrative sophistication. The result was a new kind of power, disciplined, expansionist, and culturally hybrid, whose ambitions would eventually reach as far as England, Sicily, and the Holy Land. In England, Alfred's successors built on what he had created. His son Edward and then his grandson Athelstan pushed steadily northward, reclaiming the Danelaw piece by piece through a combination of military pressure and political negotiation. Athelstan in particular proved a formidable king, the first ruler to credibly claim authority over all of England. When a coalition of Norse, Scottish, and Strathclyde forces united against him in 1937 AD, the confrontation was decisive. At the Battle of Brunanburh, Athelstan's forces won a crushing victory. The Norse political hold on northern England was broken. 5 kings and 7 earls died on the field, according to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. The poem it inspired, called Brunanburh, the greatest slaughter since the Angles and Saxons first came to Britain. The idea of England, whole and unified, had survived its most serious challenge. Far to the northwest, a different kind of Norse story was unfolding. Around 982 AD, a man named Eric, known to history as Eric the Red for his coloring and, reportedly, his temper, was exiled from Iceland after a killing. Rather than accept his banishment passively, he sailed west into unexplored waters. What he found was a vast, largely uninhabited landmass. Greenland, its western fjords, cold but navigable, offered pasture and fishing. Upon returning from exile, Eric promoted his discovery with considerable enthusiasm, and the name he gave it, Greenland, was, by some accounts, a deliberate act of marketing. Over the following years, hundreds of Norse settlers followed him. The Norse world had stretched to the edge of the known world. But the edge, it turned out, was not the end. Around the year 1000 AD, Eric's son Leif sailed further still. Following accounts, perhaps from a Norse trader who had been blown off course years earlier, Leif set out from Greenland and navigated southwest. What he reached was a coastline that did not appear in any Norse map or saga, a forested shore rich with timber and, according to later accounts, wild grapes. He called it Vinland. Leif and his crew wintered there and returned to Greenland with timber and stories. The Norse had reached North America 5 centuries before any other European. Archaeological evidence confirmed in the 1960s at L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland places Norse presence on the continent beyond reasonable doubt. It was, by any measure, an extraordinary achievement, though history at the time did not pause to recognize it. The Norse did attempt to establish a permanent colony in Vinland. Later expeditions brought more settlers, including women and livestock. But the continent was not uninhabited. The Norse encountered indigenous peoples, calling them Skrallings in their accounts, and initial trading gave way to conflict. The Norse were far from any support, unable to sustain the losses or resupply the settlement across such distances. By around 1004 to 1013 AD, the attempt had been abandoned. The colony was simply too far from Greenland and too isolated to survive sustained hostility. Vinland disappeared from the active Norse world, preserved only in saga accounts that later Europeans would struggle to believe. North America would remain beyond the reach of European knowledge for nearly 5 more centuries. Back in England, the hard-won stability of the post-Alfred decades was beginning to fracture. The king known to history as Ethelred the Unready, the name a bitter pun on his own name, meaning poorly counseled, proved unable to meet a new and larger Danish threat. King Sweyn Forkbeard of Denmark launched repeated large-scale invasions through the 90s and into the early 11th century. England paid him to stop, again and again. The Danegelds grew larger each time. 16,000 pounds of silver in 994, 24,000 in 1002, 36,000 in 1007. Each payment depleted the kingdom's treasury, demoralized its population, and confirmed to Sweyn that England was not a threat to be feared, but a source of income to be cultivated, until the moment came to take it entirely. In November of 19 AD, Ethelred made a decision. that would have catastrophic consequences. Convinced that Danish settlers living in England were plotting against him, he ordered a massacre. On the feast of St. Brice, the 13th of November, Danes throughout England were killed. The dead reportedly included Gunhild, the sister of Sweyn Forkbeard himself. The historical record of the massacre is fragmentary, and its exact scale is uncertain. What is certain is its effect. Sweyn did not respond with tribute negotiations. He responded with war. The targeted killings intended to secure England instead destroyed whatever possibility remained of a political accommodation. What followed was not a raid. It was a campaign of conquest driven by something colder than ambition. A king who had been given a reason that went beyond strategy. The campaign that followed was relentless. By 1013 AD, Sweyn Forkbeard had effectively conquered England. City after city submitted. Athelred fled across the Channel to Normandy, to the court of his brother-in-law, the Norman Duke, himself descended from Norse settlers. It was a remarkable tableau, an English king taking refuge with Norsemen to escape Norsemen. Sweyn was recognized as King of England. He had accomplished in a campaign what the great heathen army had spent decades attempting, but he would never be crowned. In February of 1014, just weeks after his triumph, Sweyn Forkbeard died suddenly. England briefly recalled Ethelred from exile. The Danish grip had slipped, but the hand that would take hold next was already waiting. Sweyn's son Canute was young, but he was not unprepared. After a brutal struggle with Ethelred's son Edmund Ironside, a genuine warrior who fought Canute to a near standstill across a remarkable campaign, Edmund died suddenly in late 1016 AD. Canute became King of England. He did not stop there. By 1028, he was also King of Denmark and Norway, with influence extending into parts of Sweden. Canute ruled a North Sea empire, 4 kingdoms unified under a single ruler that represented the absolute apex of Norse political power. No Viking leader before or after would govern such a span. The raiding culture of 793 had, in the space of 2.5 centuries, produced an empire. What Canute did with that power was perhaps the most surprising chapter in the Viking Age. He did not rule England as a conqueror. He issued law codes in the Anglo-Saxon tradition. He founded churches, made pilgrimages, and positioned himself within the Christian political order of Europe. He integrated Danish and English nobility, appointing English earls and keeping Danish housecarls, his household warriors, as a professional standing force. He wrote letters to his English subjects explaining his duties as a Christian king. The man was, by the standards of his age, a skilled and sophisticated ruler. The transformation that Rollo had begun in Normandy, the Viking becoming something else entirely, was happening again at the highest level. Canute was not the last Norseman. He was the first of a new kind of king. Canute died in 1035 AD at around 40 years of age. His empire did not survive him. His sons, Harold, Harefoot, and then Harthacnut, proved unable to hold what he had built. Harold died in 1040. Harthacnut alienated his English subjects before dying in 1042. With no viable Danish heir, England invited back the old Anglo-Saxon line. Edward, son of Ethelred, raised in Normandy, became king. The Scandinavian chapter of English history appeared to be closing. But the Norman chapter, shaped by the same Norse migration a century earlier, was quietly preparing to open. The connections between these worlds, invisible on the surface, were about to become violently clear. While England's political future was being contested, Norse warriors were serving in a very different corner of the world. From the late 10th century onward, Norse mercenaries, many of them veterans displaced by the political consolidations of the north, had entered the service of the Byzantine emperors in Constantinople. Known as the Varangian Guard, they formed the emperor's personal elite bodyguard, renowned for their ferocity and their loyalty. Loyalty being in their culture a matter of professional honor rather than sentiment. They brought runes and Norse drinking traditions to the heart of Orthodox Christendom. Several carved their names into the marble of the Hagia Sophia. Some of the most adventurous individuals the Norse world produced ended their careers not in Scandinavia or England, but in the Golden City on the Bosphorus. The force that ultimately transformed the Norse world was not a foreign army, but an idea. Christianity had been spreading into Scandinavia for over a century, carried by missionaries, merchants, and returning warriors. But the decisive change came through royal conversion. When Norse kings accepted baptism, the social pressure on their subjects was enormous. In Norway, Denmark, and Sweden through the 10th and 11th centuries, churches rose where temples had stood. The runic tradition did not vanish overnight, but Latin literacy began to displace it as the language of administration and record. The old gods did not die immediately. They retreated into folklore, into poetry, into the skaldic tradition. The identity of the Norse peoples was changing from within, and by the mid-11th century, Scandinavia was formally part of Christian Europe. The Viking Age was aging. Its end was approaching. In September of 1066 AD, the last great Viking warrior king arrived in England. Harald Hardrada of Norway was a man of extraordinary experience. He had served in the Varangian Guard, campaigned across the Mediterranean, and ruled Norway for 2 decades with an iron authority. He landed in the north with a fleet of hundreds of ships, claiming the English throne on the basis of earlier dynastic agreements. He defeated a hastily assembled English force at Fulford. England's king, Harold Godwinson, marched north from London at speed, covering nearly 300 miles in 4 days. At Stamford Bridge on the 25th of September, Harold caught the Norwegian army largely unprepared. Many had left their armor with the ships. The battle was brief and total. Harald Hardrada was killed. The old world of the warrior Viking died with him on that field. Harold Godwinson had no time to rest. 3 days after Stamford Bridge, news arrived from the south. William, Duke of Normandy, had landed at Pevensey with a Norman army. William was the descendant of Rollo. The Frankish language had replaced the Norse in his court. The Christian cross had replaced the hammer of Thor in his allegiance. But his strategic confidence, his organizational capacity, and his willingness to cross open water to seize a kingdom by force, these were things his Norse ancestors would have recognized entirely. Harold marched south, exhausted, his veteran warriors depleted. At Hastings on the 14th of October, 1066, the 2 armies met. By evening, Harold Godwinson was dead. England had fallen, not to a Norseman, but to a Norman. On Christmas Day, 1066, William of Normandy was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. The Viking Age was over. And yet, the figure placing the crown upon his own head was the great-great-great-grandson of a Norse raider who had sailed up the Seine and refused to leave. The irony is almost too complete to be coincidental, but history rarely provides such symmetry by accident. The Norse had not simply raided and retreated. They had inserted themselves into the fabric of Europe, as settlers in Iceland, as founders of states in Kiev and Rus, as traders in Byzantium, as kings of England, as Normans in France. Their language shaped English. Their legal traditions influenced Nordic societies for centuries. Their ships opened the Atlantic. They did not merely raid the medieval world. In ways the medieval world did not always recognize, they built significant parts of it. The age of the Viking was finished. Its legacy was everywhere. And that's it. Thank you for watching. The next story is waiting for you right here. Subscribe so you're always the first to know. Thanks for being part of this story. See you in the next one.